Hold on.
of
Okay.
our, uh,
Oh,
this is our fifth video, but moving on ahead for however many we're able to
Sure.
produce. This is kind of maybe a working title, see what you think. Glimpses into the world of Alex Pellegrini, a San Francisco artist.
I like it. I like it a lot.
I like it too.
Good, okay, okay. And if you come up with something better, I'm always open.
Maybe we can include commentary in the footnotes.
Okay, okay.
Sure.
Shall we go on with my mom?
Yes.
Okay, let me just quickly see if I can get the salient points. Yeah. Now, some of you, I may have said some of these stories to either one of you before, so bear with me.
Sure.
I think I've heard very little about your mom.
Okay, and you? No. Oh,
Yeah.
good. Okay,
Yeah.
then this will be fresh. I hope. Okay.
And we're speaking for posterity, notwithstanding. So,
Uh-huh. Okay.
what either of us have heard is almost immaterial in a sense.
Ah.
You know.
Okay. All right. Ready to begin?
Certainly.
We're ready.
After
We're
you.
ready to go.
Mhm.
Do you want to ask me some questions, or you want me to sail into this?
You want to start with what do you have in mind that you'd like to say about her, and then I'll ask.
Okay,
as we go.
great. Mom was born in 1915, and in 1918
In San Francisco.
in San Francisco, of Italian parents, and her when she was a child of 3 years old, the Spanish influenza of 1918 hit San Francisco very heavily, and there were an enormous number of deaths, in a sense like COVID that we have now. And the doctors, um, later in my mom's life, when she was 60 and got Parkinson's disease, they thought that her surviving that Spanish flu may have been the precursor to establishing the Parkinson's. Yeah,
Huh.
it was a theory. No one has ever substantiated or denied it.
Have you heard of other
Yeah,
anecdotal?
there are other things like pesticides. And my father was a serious cigar smoker. We all lived with that without knowing the dangers of cigar smoke. And he also had roses in the garden that he loved to spray regularly. He, he loved to spray regularly. So we think that combined with pesticides and cigar smoke and this, whatever she incurred
You never sprayed her by mistake.
I never sprayed her, but just living in that environment with those toxic things going on, and whatever happened in the flu. Because her father immediately lost his hair within 2 weeks. He went to being completely bald in 1918, and was sickly for about a year, but survived. All of the family survived, but it devastated a lot of North Beach, for example. So, moving right ahead.
I'd like to hear more about that in other
Sure,
topics. Yeah.
sure. Mom was particularly good in a couple of important aspects. Important, I think, to me, is that she was very loyal. Her family was her total orientation. She was a fabulous cook. She was very mindful of preparing my sister and I for school and taking good care of us, especially if we were ill. We got the best care in the world, and we were her focus, and my dad. And one of the things that I liked, another thing I liked about her was her ability to have super common sense. I've never seen the amount of common sense that my mom had. She may not be able to grapple intellectually with a topic, but she could give you a quick answer as to what should be done. And when you reflected on it by hindsight, you would say, my God, Mom, that was pretty damn good. That really made a lot of sense. After she passed away in 1990, at the age of 75, she started to play electrical tricks on me in the ancestral home. And people have always poo-pooed that when I've talked about it, but I firmly believe it, and I think Leslie is beginning to believe it too. For example, if you go into the basement of the catacombs and you turn the light on, while you're down there, the light will go off. And then sometimes you'll open the door and the light's back on, maybe a day later. One time I was watching Channel 7, and it was a situation where we had the old pre-digital TV where you simply went up and turned the knob, and it worked great. So Mom used to enjoy watching the Johnny Carson show late at night, and she would sit on the ground in the living room and just have her face literally a foot from Johnny. And you better not interrupt Rosie when she's watching Johnny, because that was her man and that was her show. So she sits there like a little kid and watched like this. And so after she passed, I'm in my studio. This is maybe a year after her passing, and I'm watching TV, Channel 5 News, and it's late at night, and all of a sudden, the knob switches to 7, Johnny Carson comes on. So I'm thinking, okay, Mom, I gotta watch Johnny. You know, here's Johnny, here's Rosie.
Wow.
So every so often, she will continue to do that. 10 years ago, we installed kind of atmosphere lights over our kitchen counters. So Leslie would have plenty of light when she's dicing the veggies. And so suddenly they didn't work anymore one day. And I said, well, geez, it seems to me that all those bulbs are still viable. So well, we didn't think anything of it. A couple of days later, she goes to cut the vegetables, and as soon as she does, all the lights come back on. See? So this kind of thing happens all the time. Like, she'll never know if the lights are going to work at any given time. I'm convinced that Mom is letting us know from wherever she is that she's with us, and she either approves or doesn't approve, but her presence is not missing. And so that's reassuring to me.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, it's very touching. Rosie also was one of the best women fighters I've ever met. So we can engage in a conversation that turned into a serious argument and yelling and screaming and maybe go on for 2 or 3 days. But no one ever left. No one ever went away. We just continued it until we wore ourselves out or we resolved the issue. And we would often engage one another. Maybe something really stupid, but at the time it was very significant. We were going to hold our ground and we were not going to give in. So I've never met anyone. Leslie is pretty good. You know, we could go a few rounds, but she couldn't stand up to Rosie in a fight. Yeah, and I think that's her Italian background, and her father is a tough guy, a really tough guy, and immigrant, coming to America with nothing, making a fortune, going through the Depression, the fall of the stock market, losing everything, working back up to becoming a millionaire, still in his lifetime. Just a hell of a working dynamo.
I'd love to hear more about that later too.
Yeah,
that sounds like a hell of a story.
These are all people that influence who I am. Right? We're all bits and pieces of our ancestors, and as we grow older, we begin to realize the importance. Oh, hey, Uncle so and so gave me this. Aunt Mary gave me this. His name was Alfred. So that I was named after my middle name, Alfred, after my mom's dad.
And Al from your father.
And Al from my dad, and also another Al from Italy. So, and if I had a child, I would probably name him Alex as well.
And what would you make his middle name?
Fox.
Silly question.
I was prepared for no, but I'd give him an animal name for sure, because I think all of us should have animal names, because we have animal tendencies, right?
But you don't know that until the child develops, I would think.
Yeah, you'd have to see the personality over time. Yeah, higher. Oh.
I have one.
We're not doing very well here with our posture.
Question about your mom. Or comment. I guess you were speaking about her really strong common sense or heightened.
Yeah.
And the toughness, also the fightingness.
Right.
See those both coming from her parents or the upbringing, or what do you think that's about?
From her father.
Her father.
Her mom was more meek and more of a quiet presence, almost saintly. mom had many relatives who were nuns and priests, and she was really of that ilk. In other words, you'd see her praying her Italian prayer book. Grandma would have watching Mass on TV if she couldn't get to the church, wanting to know what the Pope was doing at any given time. So I would give her things that I would find from the Vatican and give it to Grandma. So she, so it's important.
Yeah.
But no, it's the grandfather who had that tenaciousness, who would just hold on forever and be victorious. That was the point. So I think Mom got some of that and some of the loyalty. He was ferociously concerned about his family, and these are characteristics I don't find very often in present day connections that I make with families. I think we've lost an awful lot of the importance of the nuclear family, the integrity of it.
And then nearby community.
Yes. Again, all North Beach and the Mission District. Grandpa was a milkman. He was a produce vendor, a deli owner, an appliance store merchant, a fabulous hunter, a great fisherman.
In the backyard.
Yeah, he had a
the
Victor.
Sparrows.
Oh yes, he was the same one. Yes. I told. I think that was just you and I. I told Elizabeth about my grandfather, his penchant for shooting sparrows for lunch. So Grandma would be preparing lunch, and he would suddenly disappear. This is in Marin, where we had a summer home. So suddenly you'd find him in the garden under a cherry tree, shooting sparrows, bringing him into his wife. She would, do what was necessary to take all the feathers out. And they were the most fantastic thing you can imagine eating.
Make a fabulous stew.
With a plate of pasta.
Or something like that. Yeah, pasta. Okay.
Just fabulous. And I'm going to write about that, by the way.
Yeah.
Because when we talked about it, I got sort of re-energized, and I remembered myself as a little boy watching Grandpa, wanting to shoot, and he would never let me because I was too little.
And it's fun. It's hard to share.
Yes, exactly. But I thought, I could probably do it too. I could bring a bird in. But Grandma would be very upset. At the same time as she was preparing the meal, she was upset that her husband's out shooting animals, or birds. And the cops, the local cops, knew that my grandfather had a penchant for killing birds, so they'd shoot him out. But he would always, being my grandfather, he would just ignore it.
They must have never tasted a sparrow.
That's right.
Was that something you wanted to say?
Oh yeah.
I was going to ask,
Please do.
it's a random question, but what was the wine pairing for a sparrow?
The wine. You'd probably, let's see. He would always drink Chianti, so Chianti was his wine of choice, and he made his own. So that was really a superb wine, very flavorful, fruity flavor, and very smooth. You could get really wasted without realizing it. Drinking 3 or 4 glasses.
When would you start to be allowed to partake?
Yes,
you were a child, or?
Yes, I was drinking it at 4.
Yeah.
4 years old, because that's the way Italian families were. With lunch, so that you don't have to go out and get wasted, and take a challenge from your fraternity brothers and die from 2 quarts of gin. So we knew how the feel of what that does to my body when I'm a young kid. So I can have this much wine. No big deal.
Good. All right. Well, let's steer back towards the topic of your mom.
Okay.
So there's one other question I wanted to ask based on what you had said already about the supernatural happenings. Did you ever hear her talk about anything like that when you were growing up?
No.
Just something afterwards?
She was, believe it or not, she was not religious. She went along with the motions of taking us to church, but I never noticed her being anything like her mother, who was the saintly one. But no, Mom never made any, never said anything about the afterlife or spirituality or anything of that sort. She mainly wanted us to go to church because it was expected. We were at St. Peter's and Paul's, and you buy into the religion if you're in school. Eventually, at about 14, I fell away from all of it. And I'm glad I did because it wasn't making any sense to me. So, and my sister too. In fact, my sister is still very much pissed off about the indoctrination that she received from nuns and priests and things.
Sounds like it wasn't a very good indoctrination.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, no, she rebelled against it, and they did terrible things. I don't know, maybe you had some experience with such things, but they were very punitive. And it wasn't just getting a reprimand; you would get physically abused. Yeah. Either you were hit, or you were subjected to being thrown in a closet in the dark. She was thrown in closets. She used to chew gum a lot. So the nun made her take the gum out, put it in her hair, go home with these pieces of gum in her hair. You know, really pathologically sick kinds of things to do to kids. One girl used to have to go to the bathroom a lot, and she would always be doing this, you know, antsy to go. And so one day the nun just tied her shoelaces to the. She said, "You don't." And then all of a sudden, somebody says, "Hey, what's that? Urine rolling down the front." Oh, I can tell you stories. That's another subject. Yeah.
School time.
Capital punishment in school. Yeah.
Let's return to that.
Okay.
So,
well, one more quick one.
Yeah.
If you talked out of turn, do you remember the erasers that were kind of not styrofoam, but spongy, real spongy ones, and they were long? You could actually do maybe 2 feet of erasing. It wasn't just a little.
Not in use really now.
Yeah, right. Again, this is going way, quite a ways. So anyway, they would be all chalked up. So the nun would walk down the aisle and just whack you right in the face with a puff of chalk.
Yeah.
Knock your glasses off.
For talking.
Yeah, for talking. But usually people used to throw things at this nun. So she'd be at the board and they'd throw pencils. So she, not knowing who did it, she would just take the 2 of them and just whack everybody. That was incredible. It sounds funny now.
Yeah.
But we suffered.
It's quite traumatic.
Yeah. And that's why my sister's more angry. I thought it was funny. Yeah. But my sister didn't.
Yeah.
Well, she was also the subject of a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, you said something bad? Go up and lick
the
chalkboard.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, lick the chalkboard.
Did you notice a difference in the punishment received by children, male or female, between the student and the teacher?
Equal.
Yeah.
Equal. A girl would be hit just as hard as a boy would be hit. Yeah. And that continued in through high school when I went to Christian Brothers High School. And these guys were very brutal too. One guy was a boxer, his former incarnation, before he joined the Brotherhood. And so one guy used to give him a lot of lip all the time. And so he would just look at him sternly and say, you better watch out. So one day this continued, and Brother Robert was not in the mood. So I swear to God, he picked the guy up, maybe 150 pounds, picked him out of a seat, held him up like this, with his arms not in any way swaying, no shaking, and looked at him in the eye. He said, John, the next time you do that, you're going through the door, not an open door, but through the door. So John was just an angel after that. Never had any.
We knew he meant it.
But imagine he had to be picked up off the ground. Stuff like that. This was routine.
I thought that's what the bear was going to do to the squirrel when he was doing the convulsive laughter on the floor of the shop.
Yeah, he would have. He mainly would kick him because he would always grab his legs, and it was just embarrassing as hell. I thought it was funny looking back and hear my buddies screwing around in the store. It's a big deal. But no.
I can see both being true.
Yeah, that's right. But in later years, the bear and the squirrel became really tight friends. And that lasted for a very long time. Yeah. Interesting.
Great. Anything else you want to say now about your mom? I want to return to the topic.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a wonderful. I'm very interested, but for time of today.
No, this is
You had
good.
another
For,
one, yeah.
Good for today, and
Okay.
then we still have. How are we doing? We still have Oswald.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
What do you? Can you want to pause it?
I
Sure.
just want to pause.